This is the fastest death in human history. 0.004 seconds. How fast is that? Take a deep breath right now. Before I could finish, these 5 men were already dead. On June 18, 2023, the Titan was at a depth of 4,000 meters beneath the ocean. It was crushed from the outside by seawater, not an explosion, but a collapse. The seawater crushed it. Like you crushing an empty soda can. It takes you 2 seconds to crush a can, the seawater did it in just a few milliseconds. Inside the sub, 5 people, each having paid $250,000 for a ticket. Their combined net worth exceeded $10 billion. And when faced with the ocean, they didn't even get 0.004 seconds to fight back. After the wreckage was recovered, they stood in silence for a very, very long time. Because the instant implosion generated such extreme pressure and heat that it tore both people and sub into fragments, mixing them together. DNA testing was needed to tell which piece was human and which was sub. And what made it even more devastating? The control system of this multi-million-dollar submersible was a Logitech F710 wireless game controller. Yes, the same kind you use for gaming. You can buy one online for $100. 5 men wealthy enough to go to space put their lives in the hands of a game controller. And then they sank nearly 4,000 meters to the ocean floor, never to return. But you think that's the most absurd part? No, the real absurdity was just beginning. The CEO of the submersible company was Stockton Rush. He was on board too. He died as well. So what was this guy's background? He graduated from Princeton University with a degree in aerospace engineering, worked as a pilot, and came from a wealthy family. You'd think a guy like that would know safety better than anyone, right? But he publicly said something to this effect: at a certain point, safety becomes pure wastefulness. It stifles innovation. Here's a guy who's about to take people down 4,000 meters into the deep ocean, and he thinks safety is a waste. That's like a surgeon saying, washing hands is too troublesome. Let's just cut straight in. And he didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. The Titan's hull was made from a carbon fiber cylinder, sealed with titanium end caps. No other crewed deep-sea submersible in the world used this design. Why? Because carbon fiber suffers from fatigue damage under repeated pressure cycles. Each dive subjected it to nearly 400 atmospheres of pressure. Each ascent released that pressure. This cycle gradually created microcracks and delamination within the carbon fiber. Invisible to the naked eye, but with every dive, a little more damage accumulated. Until, at some point, the structural integrity suddenly failed. No warning, no leak, just instant disintegration. In engineering, it's called brittle fracture, the most dangerous failure mode. Even scarier, people had warned him. In 2018, over 30 experts from the Marine Technology Society signed a joint letter, explicitly stating that this design could lead to catastrophic consequences. They recommended independent certification. Rush refused. He even mocked these experts, calling them conservatives unwilling to embrace change. He also fired the company's director of marine operations, who had raised safety concerns. David Lockridge. Lockridge filed an official report stating that the hull testing was insufficient. It would endanger passenger lives. After being fired, he was also sued by the company for violating a confidentiality agreement. A man trying to save others' lives ended up being taken to court. Let's talk about the 5 people on board. Besides Rush, there was also a pair. A Pakistani father and son. The father, Shah Zada Dawood, Pakistani. The head of one of the wealthiest business families. Son, Suleiman. Only 19 years old. Just received his university acceptance letter. This kid actually didn't want to go at all. His aunt later told the media that Suleiman was terrified of this trip. But it was a Father's Day gift for his father. He didn't want to disappoint his dad. 19 years old. To not disappoint his father, he boarded a ship that would never return. And Paul-Henri Nargeolet, 77 years old, a retired French Navy officer. Deep-sea explorer, one of the people most familiar with the Titanic wreck. He had visited the shipwreck site many times. He always came back safely, but this time he didn't. A man who spent his life studying the deep sea ended up dying in the deep sea. The 5th person was Hamish Harding. British billionaire explorer, held the record for fastest circumnavigation by air, and had reached the deepest point of the Mariana Trench. A man who conquered the deepest point on Earth, yet died in a submersible that didn't even have safety certification. On the morning of June 18, 2023, the Titan was released from the mothership to begin its descent. 1 hour and 45 minutes into the dive, all communication with the mothership was lost. No distress signal, no report of any anomaly. It just suddenly cut off. The mothership assumed it was a communications failure and waited several hours before raising the alarm. Then, for 4 days, the entire world watched the search and rescue operation. The U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Navy, the Canadian military was fully deployed. Everyone was asking, do they still have oxygen? The Titan's life support system was designed to last about 96 hours. The world counted down from 96, 72, 48, 24. Everyone prayed they were still alive. The truth was far more brutal than anyone imagined. On June 22, the search team found debris from the Titan about 500 meters from the Titanic wreck. The condition pointed to a catastrophic implosion. The Titan had already disintegrated the moment it lost contact. 4 days of searching, 4 days of praying, 4 days of torment for the families. It had been pointless from the start. What made it even more chilling was the U.S. Navy's underwater acoustic system. At the same time the sub lost contact, it detected an anomalous signal consistent with an implosion. The military likely knew the outcome early on, but didn't reveal it until late in the search. In September 2024, the Coast Guard held a public hearing. What came to light was even more explosive. The Titan had never passed any third-party safety certification. No classification society, no DNV. Nothing. Rush refused certification, saying it was too slow and interfered with commercial plans. The Titan's viewport was made of acrylic. The manufacturer only certified it to a depth of 1,300 meters. The target depth was 3,800 meters, nearly 3 times that. The manufacturer stated in writing that it would not take responsibility for use beyond its rated depth. Rush said it had been fine before. At the hearing, a former passenger also testified that during dives, they could hear crackling sounds from the hull. That was the sound of carbon fiber cracking. That meant the structure was undergoing irreversible degradation. Rush told the passengers it was normal. So this wasn't an accident, it was a disaster waiting to happen. A man who defied the laws of physics, with 4 men who trusted him, sat inside an uncertified pressure vessel and sank into the sea, facing 400 atmospheres of pressure. All men are equal. Some say the rich were arrogant and deserved to die, but that 19-year-old boy didn't. He just wanted to make his dad happy. Some say this was the price of innovation. But stripping away safety isn't innovation. It's gambling with human lives. The Titan's wreckage still lies at 3,800 meters on the ocean floor, alongside the Titanic. Over 100 years ago, the Titanic sank because of arrogance. Over 100 years later, the Titan sank right next to it because of the same arrogance. History never repeats itself, but it often rhymes. You think the Bermuda Triangle is a death zone? Wrong. The real Bermuda Triangle was never the most dangerous sea region. According to insurance company claims records, the ship disappearance rate in Bermuda is actually lower than in the North Sea, lower than the Mediterranean, and even lower than the lake near your home. So what about the 2,000-plus ships and 900-plus planes that vanished mysteriously? A hoax. A journalist from the 1960s, trying to sell newspapers, drew a triangle by hand, connected 3 points, and told the world the devil was there. What's more absurd, the most frequently cited book on the subject had its author admit that some of the disappearances never even happened in the Bermuda Triangle. A few ships were never missing at all, he made them up. So why did the hoax last 70 years without being exposed? Because a group of people desperately needed the Bermuda Triangle to be real. First, writers and publishers needed it to be real. In 1964, a journalist named Vincent Gaddis published a cover article in Argosy magazine. The Deadly Bermuda Triangle. He connected 3 points on a map and gave it a catchy name. Just like that, an ordinary stretch of sea earned a title that sent chills down the world's spine. 10 years later, writer Charles Berlitz took these stories, polished them, and turned them into a book. How many copies did it sell? 5 million worldwide. Back then, there was no internet, no fact-checking, no debunking. 5 million people just believed it. Then one man couldn't sit still. His name was Larry Kusch, a librarian at Arizona State University, also a licensed commercial pilot. Note: not Navy, not government, not a scientist. A librarian and pilot. He spent years combing through records from the U.S. Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Lloyd's of London Original Archives pulled out those 50-plus mysterious disappearances one by one to cross-check. The result was suffocating. The research found that many cases had clear contradictions between eyewitness accounts and the statements of those involved. Many of the mysterious disappearances actually happened outside the Bermuda Triangle. And for those that did occur there, most had closed case reports. Either bad weather or human error. Not a single one was some mysterious force. In 1975, he turned his findings into a book, The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. His conclusion was, the Bermuda Triangle is a man-made mystery, rooted in shoddy research, inaccurate reporting, and the occasional deliberate distortion of facts. But the hardest evidence isn't a book, it's money. The world's largest marine insurance company, Lloyd's of London, after responding to media inquiries, confirmed that ships passing through the Bermuda Triangle are not charged any additional insurance premiums. You get it? Insurance companies are the sharpest bunch in the world. They live by actuarial rules. They speak with death data. Lloyd's conclusion was that there's nothing abnormal about that stretch of ocean. The large number of shipwrecks is also confirmed by U.S. Coast Guard records. They don't charge extra for only one reason, the data told them. That area is no different from any other ocean region. In 2013, the World Wildlife Fund specifically studied global shipping risks and released a list of the world's 10 most dangerous sea areas. Where did the Bermuda Triangle rank? It wasn't on the list. It didn't even make the top 10. The truly dangerous places are the North Sea, the Mediterranean, and parts of Southeast Asian shipping routes. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the busiest shipping zones in the world. Countless ships and planes pass through safely every day. So how were those disappearances finally explained? 90% of the answers boil down to 4 words: weather and human error. Take that most classic case. The disappearance of Flight 19 in 1945, 5 planes, 14 pilots, vanished without a trace. This was seen as the origin of the Bermuda Triangle myth. The truth, an official U.S. Navy investigation determined. The lead pilot, Taylor, had a compass malfunction mid-flight, which led to a severe navigational error. He mistook the Bahamas for the Florida Keys and led the formation further and further off course, heading out into the deep ocean. Eventually they ran out of fuel and crashed into the Atlantic. He wasn't eaten by the Devil's Triangle, he was taken down by a wrong decision. So why wasn't the wreckage found? That area is swept by the Gulf Stream, one of the most powerful ocean currents on the planet. Any wreckage that sinks gets carried hundreds of kilometers away in no time. That's exactly why most missing cases leave no trace. It's not gone, it's been carried away by the current. So what have we been cheated out of over these 70 years? Not just curiosity, not just time. What we've been cheated out of is our judgment about the world. When some writers spread these stories, they didn't do original research. And they didn't verify sources. They just kept passing on the mistakes and exaggerations of those before them. Worse, some deliberately concealed obvious evidence that could explain the disappearances. A journalist drew a triangle. A writer packaged it into a bestseller, and the whole world turned a scenic tourist destination into a terrifying forbidden zone. This isn't the Bermuda Triangle's problem. It's humanity's natural craving for mystery. We need the world to have secrets. Because if everything can be explained, life seems to lose something. But you know what's truly terrifying? It's not the Bermuda Triangle. It's the next Bermuda Triangle, being drawn by someone using the same method to mark a new triangle. And will we fall for it again? Follow me. Next time, I'll tell you which other facts you take for granted are actually carefully crafted lies.